How likely is jail time for the first Indiana DUI? Jail time in Indiana for a DUI is all over the place. So statutorily, meaning what the legislature has said is reasonable, is for the first time DUI as a misdemeanor, the maximum time in jail is 1 year. If it's a C misdemeanor, it's 60 days. Even a first time DUI offender can have a felony DUI if there's a passenger under the age of 18, if somebody was seriously hurt. And if it's a felony, it's maximum time in 2.5 years. So those are the ranges, 0 to 60, 0 to 1 year, 0 to 2.5. And if it's a higher level felony than level 6, it can get substantially more dangerous. But let's talk about run-of-the-mill first-time DUI. Let's give a few different examples. So you're driving and the officer pulls you over and says, hey, your brake light is out and I want to talk to you about a DUI investigation. If that turns into a DUI, well, a brake light out with no other bad driving would be a C misdemeanor so long as the BAC was under 0.15. So had maybe 3 or 4 drinks, you're 0.09, pulled over because you had a bad brake light. C misdemeanor, maximum time in jail, 60 days, minimum 0, maximum $500 fine. How realistic is it someone's going to go to jail for that? Well, if they have no priors, then no, it's not very realistic at all because they were pulled over for an equipment violation and they were not exhibiting dangerous driving. Had they properly maintained their vehicle, they probably would not have gotten pulled over. So most judges are going to say, no jail time for that. Most prosecutors are going to be like, hey, luck of the draw, that stinks. No jail time. They're not going to want jail time. Now, if somebody has a terrible driving record, if somebody has other crimes, maybe not DUI related, well, that's going to go against them. So I have seen people get pulled over for equipment violations and they've had a terrible driving record, speeding, failure to stop a stop sign, just a history of bad driving. And you see prosecutors get a little bit more gutsy. Well, you know what? They're not taking this whole driving thing serious. Let's ask for some jail time. Same deal if they have prior criminal convictions. Now, a lot of attorneys, such as myself, don't use other criminal acts such as, theft, domestic violence as the same category as DUI because DUI doesn't have any mental state requirement. I mean, you don't have to set out to want to do DUI to get a DUI. It's kind of one of those things that happens. It's a status offense. So a lot of attorneys and even prosecutors will say, I'm not going to use somebody's criminal history against them for DUI because that's not fair. Some prosecutors say, no, I'm definitely going to use that. Everything I can, Mark. The law does allow a prosecutor and a judge to use a person's criminal history against them. So you see people with terrible driving history, other crimes in their past, and somebody, you don't get the minimum around here for that. We want some jail time. There are some counties that even a first-time DUI with, equipment violation type offense, they're going to want a little bit of jail time. I want a weekend. I want a week. Those are fewer and far between, especially for equipment violations. Now, that same scenario, 0.09 BAC, and person swerving. Well, most counties aren't going to want or ask for jail time so long as a person doesn't have any priors, the driving history isn't too bad, other crimes don't really exist. Jail time isn't typically on the table. Now, that's county specific. There are 92 counties in Indiana, and there's at least 92 judges doing things 92 different ways. Now, the law tells them the maximum and the minimum, but there's a lot of leeway in between there. So, again, there are lots of different ways of doing things here in the great state of Indiana. And even some of those 92 counties, there's different judges that do things differently. There are judges in Hamilton County. If you're speeding over 15 miles an hour and you get pulled over for DUI, well, the prosecutor is going to ask for jail, and that judge very well might get it. There are some judges in surrounding counties where they want some weekend in jail if the driving is really bad. You're swerving, you're making cars get out of the way, if you almost cause an accident, it gets kind of more likely they're going to ask for jail time. Now, we have ways to get around that, typically by having our clients do a ton of things ahead of time to show the judge they're not a menace, they're not something to be worried about. So I'm a huge fan of being proactive early to try to avoid these jail time situations. Now, other things that might cause a first-time DUI to get some jail time. Well, really bad driving. Again, almost causing an accident, swerving all over the place, cars jumping out of the way, almost hitting somebody. That's a whole category, almost causing an accident. Now, second category is very high BAC. 0.15 and greater is a separate crime. In Indiana, it's a different type of DUI law, and judges get a little bit more serious with the 0.15 because a 0.15, everyone makes mistakes, but if you're a 0.15, you had a lot to drink. That's just a fact. So a lot of judges would use that against you. I don't think that's fair because alcohol impairs a person's judgment. So I don't think judges being harsh for 0.15 or greater is very realistic or fair. However, prosecutors argue for this all the time. But again, alcohol affects a person's judgment. And so that's something I see judges get really upset about, a high BAC. Now, causing a crash, even if no one was hurt. So you park into a crashed vehicle, or you just hit somebody and thank God no one is actually hurt. You see jail time become a possibility because prosecutors will ask for it. Judge will ask for it. A lot of prosecutors will argue this has potential for chaos all over it. Judge, this really could have been hurt. Judge, they were driving a bullet. You know, I don't like this ifs and buts type argument, but you see judges get less sympathetic towards no jail time if there's an accident. Now, again, you know, we have almost a crash, a very high BAC, there being a crash. The next category is first-time DUI offenders, even the very first time, if there's a passenger under the age of 18. That gets hard because that pulls at a lot of different heartstrings. Well, you know, you're endangering yourself, but you also endanger these minors. They don't even have a choice. They had to ride with you for whatever reason. So you see things like that, and that gets a lot more complicated. And with all of these things, we have ways to deal with it, and usually involves being proactive early. But again, these are when jail time starts increasing, at least the possibility of jail time increases, even with the first-time offender. So having a passenger under the age of 18, that is a big one. And we see that frequently, prosecutors jumping up and down, even judges being like, oh my God, this is hard. I have to make an example out of you because we don't want people driving passengers under the age of 18 around if they're intoxicated. Again, alcohol impairs a person's judgment. So I don't think it's fair that judges and prosecutors want extra punishment for passenger under the age of 18. But I understand where they're coming from. Some other things that we see for people facing jail time for first DUI is, this sounds kind of weird, but people that are caught drunk driving during the day. So 2, 3 o'clock. We've had people get pulled over in the pickup line for their kids, causing accidents in the middle of the day. And sometimes judges will be like, what is going on in your life where you feel it's appropriate to drink during the day, during the week? And so even if kids weren't in the car, people driving during the day, people causing accidents during the day, you see judges and prosecutors taking note of that because a lot of police officers will tell the court, hey, if you're drinking and driving during the day, you probably have an alcohol problem. And so I don't agree with that. I'm not saying that's right, but that is something that we see at this law firm. So ultimately, how likely is jail time for a first-time DUI in Indiana? Well, it's going to depend, right? A real lawyerly answer. But I would say more likely than not, so long as you have the right attorney, so long as you're doing the things ahead of time, so long as not some sort of crazy circumstance, not very likely for a first-time DUI. If you have any questions about DUI law, give me a call, 317-632-3642. I will talk about drunk driving defense all day. It is a passion of mine at this law firm. In fact, it's a passion of all the lawyers here fighting for the rights of our clients. That truly is something that we wake up for and we're excited about. But most importantly, remember to always plead the fifth.